So I asked the temple president, well, what time is that? He said, 4:30 a.m. I said, wow, that's pretty early, but I'll be there. So I got up early, took my bath and everything, walked down to the temple. It's probably between a half mile and a mile away. So I get to the door and open the door, and it's like, wow, the spirituality was so intense, almost knocked me off my feet. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I immediately just paid full dhanyavats and just got into the morning program. I didn't know anything about the Guru Vaisṇava, but I was just experiencing a very blissful event, and it was so attractive that I just wanted to go every day. So I started going every day to Mangal Arati, and then I think that first day that I went to Mangal Arati, I ended up chanting 16 rounds that day, and then I just kept chanting. Go to Mangal Arati, chant 16 rounds, and so that from that moment, at that time, I would do Mangal Arati all the way, and do the whole morning program, and then after breakfast, I'd go back to where I was staying, and I'd do like a 2-hour meditation program. And then in the evening, I'd do another 2-hour meditation program, and then go to the evening program at the temple. So my whole day was just, and during I'd finish my 16 rounds. I'd chant between 16 and 25 rounds every day. So my whole day was practically just sadhana. And so I was kind of like up in the clouds. Probably pretty spaced out there. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember I was just feeling high all the time. And then, so I said, yeah, this is great. I'm going to stay in Fiji forever. That was my plan. But then I went to renew my visa. And normally there was an Indian guy in that position which would make the decisions. But he was, I don't know, he was on leave or he was sick or so, I don't remember exactly. But anyway, there was a Fijian guy, he didn't like Indians. The Fijians and Indians, they basically don't like each other. And so, generally, it's not, there's always exceptions. But, so he didn't like me, because I was dressed in a kurta, I had yogi pants on, and, had kind of not really long hair, but kind of. Anyway, he didn't like me, so he kind of refused my visa. But he said I could refuse to extend my visa, but he said I could apply. I could write some reason why I wanted to stay and pay $25. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I paid the $25 and. Wrote up something and submitted it, for someone else to look at. So anyway, after it seemed like maybe a month or so later, I found out I couldn't go, that they weren't going to extend my visa. So either that same day or the day before, the temple president had told me about the Mayapur festival. So it was all Krishna's arrangement, because I was planning on staying in Fiji but then when I couldn't stay, then I said, okay, I'll go to Mayapur. So I went to the Mayapur festival, and that was just a mind-boggling experience.
What year was that?
This was 1984. This was in March of 1984. I went to Mayapur festival, and so that was mind-boggling. Yeah, and it was every bit of what he was glorifying it to be, plus more. And so I was really happy to be there. And then after that, we all went to Vrindavan for a festival there. And so it was quite a mind-boggling experience. And then...
what deities were there back in Mayapur? The deities already?
Same one. Well, they didn't have the Ashtasad, they just had Radha Madhava. And get this, see, I didn't know anything about Radha. I just knew about Kṛṣṇa. So I thought, we're worshiping Krishna. Krishna's God. So when I would go to that temple, or any temple, I didn't really pay any attention to anyone else who was on the. I just would meditate on Krishna. So when we were in Mayapur, I was just always meditating on Madhava. And so, and from that time, this is 1984 in the spring, until I went to the next time I went to the Mayapur festival, which was in 1989. I thought that there was only Madhava, there was only Krishna on the altar, because I didn't pay attention to it. I was only meditating on Krishna. So I always in my mind, I would picture Krishna in Mayapur. And so I thought there was only Krishna there. So when I got to Mayapur in 1989, there's Radha Madhava, and then there's the Astasakis. They, I guess, installed the Astasakis, and 1986, because it was the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, so they installed the Astasakis here at that time. So it was like, wow, I said, wow, they really, expanded this altar, because I thought there was only Krishna. And I asked somebody, I said, yeah, 1984 I was here and there was only Krishna. And they said, no, it was always Radha Madhava. And at that time, then I realized that the reason why I was thinking, all that time I was thinking there was only Krishna, it was because I was only meditating on Krishna. I didn't even know anything about Radharani, because I was a new devotee. And so, and then I became, at that festival, I became really attracted to Jayapataka Swami. But I was with the devotees from Fiji, and we had gone to meet Tamal Krishna Goswami, but he wasn't there at the time, so we never met him. And but then the second time I went to meet Tamal Krishna Goswami, there was a little Indian man, or I guess he's a boy really. He was running up the stairs. He goes, Jayapataka Swami, giving darshan. All I heard was giving darshan on the roof. I didn't, I couldn't comprehend Jayapataka Swami, because all these words were unfamiliar to me. And so he was very excited, so I just ran up with him to the roof, and there was this ecstatic kirtan going on. So then, all of a sudden during the kirtan, these doors opened, and standing in the doorway was this huge figure that grinned from like ear to ear. And he was, I swear to God, he was emitting gold light. He was so effulgent. Whoa! Everybody immediately hit the deck, paying obeisances. And then, we just jumped up and started, the kirtan again.
Who was he?
Jayapataka Swami. Jayapataka Swami. It's like, wow, unbelievable. And then he started leading the kirtan. He started out with like wampers like this, then like this, then like this, and he's playing these big wampers and jumping up and down. And he's a big guy, but he's super powerful. I went, wow, this is unbelievable. I want to take initiation from this person. I wasn't even interested in taking initiation till a person asked if I wanted to take initiation. I said, no, I'm not really interested. But he said, well, let's go meet Gurudev and we'll see what you think. And so I said, okay. So we tried to meet him, but we couldn't. But I met Jayapataka, so I was attracted. I said, I want to get initiated. But I wasn't even interested in getting initiated, but when I saw him, I wanted to get initiated immediately. And so I stood in the line. I stood in line, because Jayapataka Swami gave a lecture. And then at the end of the lecture, he said, anyone who wants to take initiation, because tomorrow was the initiation for it was Gaur-Purnima day, the next day. So I stand in line, and I finally get in there, and then the person who's doing the interview, she says, we need to have a letter from your temple president recommending you for initiation. And I went, oh my God, that's not going to happen, because when we were in Fiji, I didn't even know there was like 11 gurus. I was very surprised. I got like 11 Vyasa-sons on the altar. And I said, wow, this is too much. Because when we were in Fiji, I didn't even know Srila Prabhupada. When I was going to the temple the whole time, I didn't even know Srila Prabhupada had gone back to Godhead. So he had a picture of Srila Prabhupada on the Vyasa. There were two Vyasa-sons showing Srila Prabhupada on one, and then on his right was picture of Tamal Kṛṣṇa Goswami. And I said, well, who's this person? And he said, this is the successor. He didn't say this is one of the successors. He said, this is the successor to Swami Prabhupada. And I said, oh, you mean he left his body? And he said, yeah, he went back to God. And I said, wow, I didn't know that. But that's when I first found out. That was before I went to the mindfulness. So he had said, so then I was thinking that Tamal Kṛṣṇa Goswami was the only successor to Srila Prabhupada. So I figured that he would be the guru, but he was just one of the gurus. So anyway, I knew that he wasn't going to be happy with me for wanting another guru besides, they call it Gurudev. And so I didn't even bother, because I knew he was just going to get chastised and get angry. Tell me, no, you have to take initiation from Gurudev and all this. So I didn't even bring it up, so I just, okay, well hopefully do it next year. But I didn't go back to Mayapur until like 1989. But anyway, I met Jayapataka Swami later. We talked for a while, and he asked me my name, and then I met Vidayananda Maharaj, and then eventually, we went and we met Tamal Kṛṣṇa Goswami. And I really liked him. I thought, okay, yeah, I can take initiation from him. So if I'd have met him before that, I would have gotten initiation. If I'd have met him before that initiation, I would have gotten initiated by him, that festival. But it's Krishna's arrangement that I didn't. Because, after that, we met Tamal Kṛṣṇa in Fiji, and so I was planning to take my wife and, my new wife and I, that I had met in Fiji, that Tamal Kṛṣṇa Goswami had recommended that I come to the Philippines, but she just wanted us to go back to America, so I just kind of went with what she said. So anyway, just started practicing, from that time that I told you. I've been practicing Krishna consciousness, and I was still doing my meditation, but not as much. So I kind of like slacked off the meditation part, but still kept doing Krishna consciousness. And so then in my married life, that I went back to school, finished my bachelor's degree in religious studies from the University of California. And at that time, we were associated with the Laguna Beach Temple. And the temple president was Agnidev Das, and the vice president was Bhakta Avatar Dās. So two great kirtan leaders. And they would come every week to University of California in Riverside, where I was working on my BA in religious studies, and then do a program. So we would do a program every week, and then that was starting in the fall of '84 or spring of '85. But anyway, in the spring of '85, we had a festival of India there. Ratnabhushan, he brought the tents and the stages and everything. Had a really nice festival of India there. So that was kind of my. Bhakta Avatar Dās was the greatest inspiration in my life to get me to the level of wanting to preach Krishna consciousness. Because before that, I wasn't, I didn't even have any idea about, what preaching was, or that it was a beneficial thing. But he convinced me that it was, the best thing to do is to try to bring others to Krishna consciousness. And I was in that mood anyway, because I was always trying to get people to learn transcendental meditation. I did that for 12 years, or even before I became a teacher. I was bringing people to that teacher I told you about, who was leading the group meditations. So I would bring people to him. So it was just a really new expansion of spiritual consciousness in my life, to be practicing Krishna consciousness and giving it to others. So Badahari was my greatest inspiration for that. And so then we were mainly going to the Laguna Beach Temple, sometimes LA. But then we had a group that was of Indian families. My wife, she's Indian from Fiji. So we'd have satsang like every week, and different. Usually it was in these two different devotees' places. So one of the devotees, he was from Maharashtra. He and his wife, they were from Maharashtra. So they had gone there a few months before, and they met Lokanath Swami. So they invited him to come to their place when he came to America. He invited him to come to their place in America. So he agreed. So then, this is 1988. And in 1989, Lokanath Swami was doing a padayatra down the west coast from San Francisco to Tijuana. And so he was going around to different temples, doing kirtan, and then he would show like a slideshow of the Indian padayatra, and then do some fundraising. So then we'd have the Sunday feast. So when he came to America, he was doing it. He had 3 programs in a row. One was at the Maharashtrian people, and then the other one was at another Gujarati family's house, both in Anaheim Hills, California, which was about 25 minutes from where we lived. So it's easy for us to go to the program. So the first program, the other family that we've been normally doing programs with, they were moving. From an apartment to like a nice house in Cerritos. They were also Gujarati. So my wife and I were helping them move. We only had one child at that time. We ended up with 3. But my son, Vrindavan, he was Vishnu at that time. He was like 1 year old. He was born in 1987. So, we had him, and so we were helping this couple move. And so we were late for the program. And normally, if I'm late for the program, I'll just leave and do my own kirtan and chant and dance, just to get out my chanting and dancing, because I missed out on. But then I open the door and I find out the program's over, and for like a split second, I start to, get bummed out and, ready to like leave and do my own kirtan. Because at that time I was really like, jumping on, really into like kirtan and dancing. So I figured, well, I'll have to do my own. I missed out on this. Don't forget about the prasad. So everyone's going for prasadam. And so all the other people, their family and, my wife and son went to take prasadam. But immediately after I opened the door and found out the program was over, I saw Lokanath Swami, and immediately I was attracted to him. Just like when I saw Jayapataka Swami, immediately I was attracted to him. And so I paid obeisances, and he was speaking in Marathi to some of the family members. I couldn't understand a word he was saying. What I know about Marathi, I barely know any Hindi. So I sat down kind of close, not so close that I would be a disturbance that, what are you doing here? But close enough where I, could feel his energy. Well, I could